Let's head to the text shadow. So once again, we declared a document type, HTML, head, and style. Within the style, we had all our declarations, and within the body, we have our outputs. So over here, I've got a few things to run through to show how different text shadow looks like. Let's uncomment, save the document, jump back to the page and refresh. Now we have a different text shadow. Let's jump back to code, undo that, uncomment the next one, save the document, head back to the page and refresh the page. We have a different text shadow. The shadow is there, but it's not felt. As you can see, it's very faint compared to the topic. You can see the topic is very sharp. There's nothing like shadow around the text. But with this, if I'm to zoom in a little bit more, you can see the shadow begins to appear around the text. Okay, so let's zoom out. Let's head back to our code and make some more changes. So I'm going to undo that, uncomment that, save the document, jump back to the page and refresh the page. We're having a different text shadow. Let's jump back to the code, undo that, and uncomment that. Save the document, jump back to the page, refresh the page, and we have a different text shadow. Let's jump back to the code, undo that, and uncomment that as well. Save the document, jump back to the page, refresh the page. We have a different text shadow. Let's jump back to the code, undo that, uncomment that line, and save the document, jump back to the page, refresh the page. We have a different text shadow. Let's jump back to the code again, and finally we undo that. Let's uncomment the last one. Let's save the document, jump back to the page and refresh the page. We have this type of text shadow. Looking at the text appearance on the page, you can see it is ranged to the left. At this point, there is no padding here. So that's why it's touching the border. So it's better to center the text to make it more readable or to make it more appealing to the reader. Let's jump back to the code and see what we can do to make room here. So for the text shadow, I'm going to apply a padding to it. Okay, let's give it a padding of 40 pixels. We give 40 pixels to the padding. We save the document, we jump to the page and see how 40 pixels looks like. So this is 40 pixels distance from the border. Let's try 10 pixels. Jump back to the code and give it 10 pixels. We save the document, jump back to the page and refresh. So that's how 10 pixels looks like. Let's try 20 pixels. We save the document, jump back to the page and refresh. That's 20 pixels. Let's jump back to the code. So right within the style, we've declared everything we wanted or how we want the body to look like. So for the H1 up here, we give it these color values for the H1. For the paragraph, we give this color value. For the H3, we give this color value. And for the text shadow, we give it this text. For the text shadow, we can change this H3 to H1 as well. So let's change it to H1 and save the file. Let's jump back to the page and refresh it. We have a bigger text, just like the first one. Let's head back to the code. So right now, we have completed our text shadow using different options as we have commented out here. So let's jump to background image. Same thing in the background image. We're declaring our document type, HTML head style. Within the style, we display all our experiments within the body. For the paragraph, we had the font size, we had color, we had background image. For the body, we had background color, we have padding. We have another paragraph, we gave it these color values, and in our div, we had our background image. We had a selector here called .star. That's where we kept our background images. So we have one image here, 03. We have another image, 02. We set our background color to transparent. So let's see how the design looks like on the web page. So we're saving the document and we're jumping to background image. So here in background image, this is how it looks like. We have two types of images, this one and that one. And we have a GIF image as well, right on top of the two background. So the GIF image is the foreground, while these two are the images at the background. Okay, let's jump back to our code. We have 4 paragraphs on top of our background. Let's have a look. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. 1 paragraph, 2nd paragraph, 3rd paragraph, and the 4th paragraph. So let's jump back to our code. At this point, we've designed a document for background image. So within our declaration, we had a background image, the background color to be transparent. We had another background image, and for the body, we had a background color of this value. And for the padding, we had 20 pixels. So we've now concluded our background image document. Let's jump to opacity. With opacity, background color are affected by the opacity level. So this document is all about a background and its opacity levels. So at this point, we have our opacity set to 0.8. So we can change 0.8 to 0.2 to see the difference it makes. So we've given it 0.2, saving the document, head back to the page, opacity. So initially, it was in this level of opacity, but we've now changed it to 0.2. Let's see how it looks like. 0.2 has faded almost everything away. So let's jump back to our code and make more changes. Let's give it 0.9. We've given it 0.9. We save our document, jump back and refresh. We have a more positive opacity level. So let's jump back to our code. What else can we do? Basically, within the style, we've declared everything we want to see in the body. So for this document, we're focusing more on opacity. How opacity level can affect a background of a text. For RGBA color, 4 values are required, such as red color, green color, blue color, and alpha transparency. The values for red, green, and blue must be decimal values from 0 to 255. The alpha value must be a number between 0, transparent, and 1, opaque. Attempt the following example below as part of your homework. HSLA color. The HSLA color function defines colors using the hue saturation lightness alpha model. HSLA color values are an extension of HSL color values with an alpha channel which specifies the opacity of the color. Hue is a value between 0 and 360. Saturation is measured in percentage, lightness is measured in percentage, and optional alpha is from 0 to 1. CSS gradients. CSS gradient is a smooth blending of shades from one color to another. CSS defines 3 types of gradients, such as linear gradients, radial gradients, and conic gradients. Chapter 6 Summary. In this 6th chapter, we examined more CSS basics. Continuing from chapter 4 of our main topic, Basics of Web Design, this chapter expanded your CSS skill set. You were introduced to the box model. You configured CSS properties related to the box model, such as margin, border, padding, height, and width. You centered a web page using CSS. You explored a new CSS property including border radius, box shadow, text shadow, and opacity. In summary, chapter 6, we examined the following. We examined width and height with CSS, the box model, configure margin with CSS, configure padding with CSS, the CSS border properties, valid border style values, configuring specific sides of a border, CSS rounded corners, centering page content with CSS, CSS text shadow properties, CSS background image, CSS properties, opacity properties, RGBA color, HSLA color, and CSS gradients. We have now come to the end of the 6th chapter of Basics of Web Design. Thank you all for your attendance.